Well, what a panel. This is a phenomenal conversation. And of course, I have the honor to have another two Latinas, Paola Santana and Brittany Castro. Thank you for being here. And as the time is short, let's go into the things. Let me know or share with us, who are you? Short story on who you are and what are you doing? Then Brittany, if you want to start.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Brittany Castro. I am a certified financial planner. So I started in the financial world right out of college, and I was there, well, I still am here for 15 years. I've worked with, clients and their financial planning needs, investing needs. I started my own company when I was 28 years old, got my CFP designation when I was 26 years old. So I was a young woman in finance, really going after the entrepreneur path, which at that time I had no idea what an entrepreneur was. I just wanted my own business and freedom to run my business how I wanted without all the corporate mandates. Since then, I've sold my financial planning practice in 2020, and I now just focus 100% of my time on brand partnerships, speaking, content creation for myself and other financial companies, crypto companies. And recently, I just launched a coaching program to help other financial advisors do what I did, which is basically grow a business online using social media to attract clients, get paid speaking, brand partnerships, learn how to market in a really modern way, because in finance, it's like law, it's very behind. And a lot of times people are very knowledgeable in the financial world, but they really just don't know how to market or do video creation that educates people and inspires people. So that is my sweet spot. I think that's where I operate the best. And I'm really excited to be at this point, I think, in my entrepreneur journey and my career, where I feel like I'm really doing 100% of the work that I love to do. It wasn't always that way. We have to hustle, we have to put in a lot of hours and time and do things we don't necessarily love. So I'm very blessed and grateful to kind of be here now, because I had that vision, years ago to be here now. So it's very nice to be here with all of you and share the journey in any way I can help other people.
You read me for sure. And I will get deeper into some of your points later on. But now, Paola, who is Paola Santana?
Thank you, Rosario. First of all, I have to say, I'm like these powerhouses. I'm just feeling the energy. I just landed in New York last night, so I'm gonna go to Chef Ziala's restaurant today. And I'm also Dominican, which is like, oh, so many Dominicans in business and pushing all of us forward. I'm Paola Santana. I'm Dominican born and raised, did law school, but I was doing law school as a means to the end. I wanted to change political systems and governments. I wanted to change the things that are supposed to create opportunities for everyone to thrive at the largest scale imaginable. And I won a Fulbright scholarship that brought me to the United States, to Washington, D.C. to study government. I didn't find what I wanted to get from the political capital of the world. And then I turned into technology, landed in Silicon Valley, and started the first drone delivery company in the world called Matternet. If you've seen in the news, these little white drones flying stuff around or holding a package from UNICEF to UPS, that's my first tech company. So I became a tech entrepreneur without knowing what was an entrepreneur, just like Brittany. And then since in the last 12 years, I've advised companies on how to create a physical infrastructure, from the Hyperloop systems that, we can move people very fast inside a capsule-like tube, to passing regulation in the United States. And now more recently, we are building software infrastructure for governments to be able to do their job better with Glass. That's my second tech company. It's being used by a couple of governments, both in Latin America, like Ciudad de Mexico, and here in the United States, like City of Seattle. And basically, we build tech infrastructure to advance the world to the next level. So that's me in a nutshell.
Well, thank you both, because of course, finance and technology and also government are worlds where there are not too many women. I mean, and in some cases also the ones that are there are not making enough noise. We don't see the role models that we want. It's difficult to find who to follow. Then I want to ask you, when you took the decision to be an entrepreneur on those areas, who was inspiring you? I mean, who was your role model, and why you took the step forward? Brittany, Paola, whoever.
Yes, sure. I'll go first. So I think when I took the step to start my own company, that's when I realized I was an entrepreneur, and I literally just did a lot of networking. I live in Los Angeles, and I would find, women focused events to go to, and I would just look at other women business owners, and I thought, okay, they're doing it, I could do it too. But I also read a lot of books. I think that's like the power of mentorship. It doesn't have to be a physical in person. You can learn a lot from other people's stories, and now we have YouTube or social media where you hear people's inspiring stories through video. But at that time, I remember just like I'm such a book nerd. I would read a lot, and I would just start to connect with the way these business owners or entrepreneurs were talking about like creating something or paving the way, thinking differently. They weren't following the traditional path maybe of getting a job. And so I was really inspired by all of those people I was meeting in person when I was building my network in LA, and also just through like the books I was reading and different, events I was going to and hearing people speak, like, like here today, I would hear people speak and get inspired by their stories and think, oh, okay, I could do something similar too then.
I would just add to that. So it's very hard to see where you can get when you don't see someone like you doing those things. And I have a lot of, the women in my family, first of all, every woman that is running anything from their little business in their brain, they're just like, oh, this is my side business. Like, no, you're the CEO of business. That's number one. And if you're running your house and you're raising kids, that's one of the biggest enterprises. That's the biggest enterprise. Like like a startup is a baby, and then your family and your kids are babies, like literally. So every woman out there that doesn't feel like they're running something, like just own your title. You are the CEO of that thing that you're running day to day, whether that's your life, that's other people's lives, that's a project internally in a big corporation, or that's your own business. So I think we have been entrepreneurs since we learned and started managing and making things work in the world. That's number one. When I knew that thing that I was always doing had a name, I was like, okay, this seems like what I've been doing all the time. Like I used to work at the National Elections Court in the Dominican Republic. I co-created the first constitutional court in Dominican Republic from scratch. It's just not the name you're giving. You're not a founder of courts. You're not an entrepreneur inside a government environment. But then it's hard to see where you can go. So I would be inspired by people around me, by women like you. I met you more recently in the last 2 years, but actually you are in a field where you do VR and AR and other exponential technologies, but that's not my field. So when I'm trying to see like, where can I go in the drone industry or in crypto industry or in artificial intelligence, I do not know how a woman doing that executive position talks. How does she dress? How can she be aggressive or non-aggressive, or actually be, just executive without feeling that I'm not being myself? But it's interesting. You're not being yourself because you have never operated at that level, and you have never seen anybody operating at that level. So of course you're going to be uncomfortable, but you're creating a new vision for what that role can be for you and for many people behind you. So I do believe that it's important to, yes, inspire others, but also to tell others, what you're doing, nobody has done it. So you need to dual pros and cons. You need to, you're a little bit alone, but at the same time, that means you don't have to fit into anybody's mold because you're a whole new category of something. And I feel like that's how I've carved my way into what I'm doing right now.
Paola, I love that, because in many cases when, and I have this joke that sometimes when I'm arriving with my marketing and commercial partner to some meetings, People is talking to him technology and talking to me marketing because of my nails, whatever. Or also when I was in finance, in some cases there was this, oh, I need to be very well hairdressed because this way I will be like weird in the financial world. Then how did you confront those situations where there were biases related with who we are? Even I will mention, in my case, I learned English as an adult. Then I have a strong accent and I will have it forever, but only in the moment where I realize that that's not the thing. That's even a way to tell my story, to connect with other people, to open doors and say, I don't need to be perfect, but I need to do it in a great way. Then how did you ever, first thing, did you ever found moments where you were like perceived or uncomfortable, not only because you are the first one or you are creating an opening that space, but because of the biases?
I mean, again, because we're operating in, sometimes you don't, so everybody can feel part of this conversation. Sometimes you're not in a male dominated industry, but you are on an industry that was shaped or designed by men. Same thing. Like you're like, oh, I want to do things this way. And then you feel out of your touch or out of many things because this thing was not created to embrace you or to even embrace who you are, how you think. Like women were super operational. We wouldn't like just say yes on the first go because we want to think through many angles. So my perception is that you would always feel uncomfortable, and uncomfortability, I'm not saying it's something you should embrace all the time, but it's an outcome of growing and going into places that nobody has been there before or you haven't been there before. And that means creating larger tables. I tell everybody, investors and people that work with me, I tell them, what's the point? How can you create global products if you don't have a global team? And a global team means that you need to have diverse people at the table because the world looks more like everybody else than like me, in the sense like the world reflects everybody that's at my table. And then if you're a super executive, you cannot expect that your designer, your engineer, and everybody that is not you speaks like you. So you need to bring them to the table and let them do them. And when they see that power, that you're letting them do them, then they're like, I like this leadership. And they rally behind you. And then, of course, you will have investors in our case saying, like, investors, the market saying, oh, your team should look more white, your team should look more senior, your team should do this, and your team should do that. And I'm like, yeah, but those teams that you're telling me that look like this or have done this or have this money, they haven't solved the problem that I'm trying to solve. So you need to give me a chance to do me. I think that's very powerful. And by now, but again, I've been operating 12 years in the tech world. And before the tech world, I was in the government world, and all these industries are male dominated. So by now, I don't feel uncomfortable about that. I feel uncomfortable about the real work, about the answers that nobody has, about the questions that nobody's asking. That's what makes me uncomfortable because I'm learning. But the male conversation and who's in command, I'm like, you can be in command, but solve the problem. Solve it, and then show me how it's being solved. And nobody has those answers.
That's true. Brittany, what do you want to add there?
Yeah, I mean, I just have so much to relate. When I was just starting, I would try to look like a man more so, I think, because it was like a corporate world and I was like 22 years old. I would wear all black. I remember I put my hair so tight in a bun just so like people would take me seriously. And it made me sick, like health wise. I was just always like run down and sick because I was trying to imitate someone else, right? Instead of just being me, a woman in finance and leveraging my feminine power and strengths. So I think over time, I eventually learned to like tap into that. And then even I'm half Mexican, half Irish, French Canadian. So, you know, even like being half Latina and like saying I'm Latina, a woman in finance, like then I just really started to embrace it. Like, no, I'm a young woman in finance. Like, this is amazing. And that was like actually my marketing, my niche. And I remember when I left I started at a firm and I was there for 5 years, and then I left and started my own independent business, and I had no idea what I was doing. But my manager at the first firm, he said, "Oh, it's so stupid if you're gonna like niche yourself for women professionals, because he's like, you're basically going to miss out on half of the population." And I said, well, actually, I think it's a huge opportunity because every woman I talk to doesn't relate to the financial industry, and I'm in the financial industry and I don't relate to any of these things and how they talk about money. The strategy is the same. It's just how we communicate, how we manage money, how we want to work with a professional in the industry. So I literally built my first, company, Financially Wise Women, with the focus of helping women. And it was like almost like girly in a way, the color palette. I would dress more like feminine, I was just more me basically. And then I got more and more confidence, and then success started to come. I would get recognition. I would get awards in the industry. And I think that then I didn't feel like, oh, I have to be anybody. I was just myself. But that was always something in the beginning. I just think like, gosh, if I didn't have those first, whatever, 4 years of trying to be somebody else, I would have been like much happier. But, that was part of my learning curve as well. And then now I just think, oh, it's so beautiful to be a woman in finance, like do it my own way, create my business my own way. I don't have anyone to compete with really, because I mean, first of all, there's so much out there, abundance. And then also, I'm the only Brittany Castro. Like, so to me, there's only one way that I'm going to do the things. And if I just stay true to that, like oftentimes I just put my filters on and put my head down and work. I don't really pay attention to what a lot of the people are doing in the financial world. That always works well for me, because then I'm happier. I'm doing my life, I'm doing my business, and then I go and, it attracts the right things to my circle.
I love that. I love all those points, of course, because being yourself, your own self, is more comfortable than anything else. Then you can concentrate on excellence, on delivering, and not on well, if I'm that little voice, if not in that little voice telling us the accent is not, the dress is not correct, the whatever, then it's important to strengthen our own style. Then time is almost there, but what is like a last advice that you give to all the women who are today with us in terms of two things? One is growing. I know you were talking a lot about the components of it, growing and access to resources and money. Because of course, both of you are related with that as entrepreneurs, as experts on the topics. And so then, Brittany.
Yeah, I could go first. So in terms of growing, I just think that's part of life, get used to being in the change and the flow. And actually, as women, I think we're really good at it. If we drop, that masculine ego side and just like our nature is to change, to like be constant, wives, mothers, friends, business owners, like we're constantly moving, taking care of things. So I think that's one. To evolve, it's a constant. You're never, like, people would ask me like years ago, what does it feel like to have made it? And I'm like, that's such a weird question to me, because it's like, yeah, you like have success, and I think it's very good to celebrate. I'm not saying not to embrace it and celebrate it, but it's always just like you're just in the flow. Like I feel like that I don't really think like, oh, there's a destination, because I'm just like working every day on making myself better or enjoying more presence in my life, those sorts of things. What was the second part of the question?
Money.
Oh, money.
Access to money.
Jeez, yeah. Hey, I'm going to tell you it's not easy. It's not easy. I self-funded my business. I wish I would have been like a little bit more creative in the beginning and maybe like got some sort of loan, but I didn't. I just didn't. It's a little hard. You just have to kind of figure out, are you going to self-fund? Are you going to get angel investors? Are you going to go get VC money? Are you going to get a small business loan? Every avenue takes work, effort. You'll probably get denied. So you have to have that kind of persistence. And I think with a business, like we all know, it takes more time, more money than we always project. So that's also part of it. I've learned just to like, oh, okay, I make more money, but money goes too. So I think as women, just kind of don't shy away from that. Like, go get the money, whatever it is, stay resilient, because sometimes you're going to get no, 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 no until you finally get that yes. And it is there. There's so many creative resources. You just have to find the right one for you.
Thank you, Brittany. Paola.
Yes, so let's talk about money. So two things. Number one, let's talk about facts. It takes about 3 to 6 months and about 100 pitches, like presentations and deliveries of your idea, in order for you to get funded. So if I would tell you that that's the data, women or men, it doesn't matter. If I would tell you that that's the data, when you do your first 20 pitches, it's not about being resilient, is that's the data. Like, it takes 100 presentations. So number one, you need to mentally put yourself in the position where you will refine how you talk about your business, not to do the homework before you're actually doing the homework. You need to have those 100 conversations. The first 20 conversations are not going to be great. So you don't put your best investors, your best people, your best angels at the first 20 presentations. You leave them for the middle one or the last ones, because that's where you're going to know every question from every angle, every answer you will have like this. That takes me to my second part. Women don't raise money, and that's a problem. You know why? Because we're so resourceful. We're so amazing at making everything work out of nothing. Like Brittany, like me, we self-funded some of our first businesses. And you know what happened? That's great, because we are full owners of our businesses. But that means that what we could have done in 5 years, we did it in 10. And that also means that we are the sole stakeholders, and we didn't have a lot of, I would say, external accountability on how to do things, because we were just doing the things with all the resources that we had, financial and other type of resources. So if you look at the data, Latinos in general receive barely 2% of all VC money. And Latinas is, of course, much less than that. So my point is that money is already on the street. It has already been deployed. Like, investors need people like us with great ideas, because they have a mandate to invest that money in a year period or in a couple of years. But they won't find you if you're not out there pitching to them. So what I'm telling you is that money is going to people that have less prepared business models than you, less clients, less traction, and less everything, just because those folks are spending time raising money. All that to say, you need to go out and raise capital. For all of us to increase that amount of capital going into women, we need to be out there pitching our businesses with the information that we have at hand. It's not perfect, it's not complete, because again, the things we're doing haven't been solved for everyone, else we wouldn't be doing this. So we need to raise capital. We need to raise capital at the same portion that our male counterparts are raising capital. And we need to negotiate at every level. What do I mean? Every time you're talking to someone, maybe that investor does not invest in your market. They do not invest in your type of business. They do not invest in people like you. They always have an excuse. But since you took the time to be on that 15 or 30-minute call, you need to tell them, that's great that now I know you don't invest in me. Can you give me 3 names that you can make an intro? And please, would you make the intro? I'm gonna send you the blurb, you just need to forward it. Like, you never leave a 15 or 30-minute conversation with nothing. You either get a follower on Instagram, you get a follower, you get someone to add you on LinkedIn so you can have access to their network. You get them to make an intro to another investor, or you get them to make an intro to a potential client. You never leave the table without negotiating or getting something for you, because you already invested the time. So that's what I would say. And that's what I'm doing, actually. So, yes.
Thank you. No. I love this conversation. I know the time is finalizing, and we will keep the time going and the conversation going. Then follow Paola and Brittany on their social networks, learn from them. And now I should say thank you. Now Susana will have a fireside chat with Albania Rosario. Then Susana, the table is yours.